Thank you kindly. I really appreciate this.
Don't.
God bless you.
Of course. Please take care of yourself out here.
Excuse me, miss. Please, I'm so hungry. Can you spare me anything to eat? Sophie didn't hesitate. She reached into her canvas bag and pulled out a packaged sandwich and a cold bottle of water, handing it to man sitting on the pavement, and smiled. Here, sir. I hope this helps. The man took it with both hands like it was liquid gold. He drank the water desperately, with little drops dripping down his chin, then looked up at her with tears in his eyes. God bless you, miss. And that one small act of kindness? It was about to drag her into a world of secrets, manipulation, and a family she never asked to be part of. The scorching London sun, a rare occurrence, beat down on Oxford Street like a hammer on an anvil. Harold sat on the warm pavement, his back pressed against the brick wall of a closed shop. His clothes were tattered, deliberately so. Dust covered his worn shoes, and his gray beard was unkempt. To anyone passing by, he looked like just another homeless man trying to survive another brutal summer day. But Harold Ashford was far from homeless. He was one of the wealthiest men in England, owner of Ashford Properties, a multi-billion-pound real estate empire. His name was on buildings, his signature on contracts worth more money than most people would see in 10 lifetimes. Yet here he sat, disguised as a beggar, watching people walk past him without a second glance. Harold had been doing this for 3 weeks now, every Tuesday and Thursday afternoon. He wasn't here for money or attention. He was here searching for something far more valuable, a woman worthy of his son. His son, Oliver Ashford, was 35 years old, successful in his own right, and completely closed off to the idea of love. Oliver had built walls around his heart so thick that Harold feared his son would die alone, bitter and empty despite all his wealth. Oliver's mother, Margaret, had left him when Oliver was only 10 years old. She'd walked out one morning without warning, leaving only a note that said she couldn't live that life anymore. Now, 25 years later, Oliver cycled through relationships like business deals. Beautiful women came and went, but none of them touched his heart. Dad, I've seen what love does, Oliver had said during their last argument about it. Mum loved you once, remember? Then she left. Every woman I've dated has wanted something from me. My money, my connections, my name. Love is just another transaction, and I'm tired pretending otherwise. Harold had tried to argue, but how could he? His own marriage had failed spectacularly. But Harold had lived long enough to know the truth. Real love existed. And that's why Harold was sitting on Oxford Street dressed as a beggar. Wealth attracted the wrong kind of people. So Harold had decided to become invisible, to strip away the money and the name, and see who would show kindness to someone who had nothing to offer in return. For 3 weeks, he'd sat on the street corner. Most people weren't cruel. They were just indifferent. But every now and then, someone would stop. A middle-aged woman giving him her lunch, a teenage boy emptying his pockets, an elderly couple asking if he needed anything. These moments restored Harold's faith, but none of these people were right for Oliver. It was on a Thursday afternoon that everything changed. She was walking down Oxford Street with purpose. Not the leisurely stroll of a tourist or the frantic rush of someone late for work, but a steady, determined pace. She was young, maybe late 20s, with dark auburn hair pulled back in a practical ponytail. She wore simple clothes, jeans and a plain blue t-shirt, and carried a large canvas bag over one shoulder. What caught Harold's attention was the way she looked at people. As she walked, her eyes moved from face to face, really seeing them. When her eyes landed on Harold, she didn't look away. She stopped and walked over to him. "Excuse me, sir," she said, her voice soft but clear. "Are you okay? You look like you might be overheating." Harold cleared his throat, staying in character. I'm very thirsty and hungry, miss. Haven't had anything in a while." She immediately swung her canvas bag around and unzipped it. Inside was filled with bottles of water, crackers, cereal bars, and other simple foods. "Here," she said, pulling out a bottle of water. "Drink slowly. It's still cold." Harold drank desperately, and when he finally stopped to breathe, he looked up at her. "Thank you, miss. God bless you." She smiled. "You're welcome. Do you need anything else?" She crouched down to his level, not caring that the pavement was dirty. It's dangerous to be out in this heat, without water. Is there somewhere you can go to cool down? Harold shook his head. I'm okay here, miss. Well, I'm Sophie. I come down this street every Tuesday and Thursday afternoon. If you're here and you need anything, just let me know. Thank you, Sophie. I'm William. She walked away, and Harold watched her go, his mind racing. He pulled out his phone and quickly typed a message to his private investigator. Woman named Sophie, late 20s, auburn hair, walks down Oxford Street on Tuesdays and Thursdays with supplies for homeless people. Find out everything about her. Maybe, just maybe, his search was over. 2 days later, Harold read the report. Sophie Bennett, age 28, grew up in a working-class neighborhood in East London. Father was a plumber who died when she was 16. Mother worked 2 jobs to keep Sophie and her younger sister in school. Sophie had won a partial scholarship to King's College London, but worked full-time while attending. She graduated 4 years ago with a degree in social work. Currently employed at the London Community Support Center, a charity that helped homeless individuals. Her salary was modest, barely above the poverty line. She lived in a small flat in Bethnal Green with 2 flatmates. Every Tuesday and Thursday, she spent her lunch break walking through central London, distributing water and food to homeless people. She bought the supplies with her own money, often skipping meals herself to afford it. This was exactly what he'd been looking for. Sophie Bennett was kind without expecting anything in return. She was hard-working and humble. She wasn't motivated by wealth or status. She was perfect. That night, Harold invited Oliver over for dinner. Oliver looked tired, his expensive suit rumpled, dark circles under his eyes. You look exhausted, Harold said. Big acquisition coming up, the Thompson deal. You need to slow down, son. Oliver laughed bitterly. Dad, you built this company by never slowing down. I'm just following your example. I made mistakes, Oliver, Harold said quietly. I don't want you to make the same ones. What mistakes? You're worth billions. I'm lonely, Harold said simply. I'm 68 years old, and I eat dinner alone most nights. Is that the life you want? Dad, please don't start with this again. I just want you to be open to the possibility that there might be someone out there worth letting in. I've let plenty of people in, Oliver said coldly. They all wanted something. Harold chose his words carefully. What if I told you I might have found someone different? Someone who doesn't know who you are? Oliver's eyes narrowed with suspicion. What are you planning? Nothing. I just think you should keep an open mind. Oliver studied his father. You're up to something. Whatever it is, please don't. Are you really fine, Oliver? Or are you just afraid? Oliver's face flushed with anger. I should go. Thanks for dinner. He walked out without another word. After Oliver left, Harold sat thinking. A direct introduction wouldn't work. He needed a different approach. And then it came to him. If Sophie needed a better paying job, and if that job happened to be as Oliver's housekeeper, it was manipulative. It was deceptive. But Harold was running out of options. He picked up his phone. Johnson, it's Harold Ashford. I need a favor. The next day, Harold returned to his spot. At exactly 1:15 p.m., Sophie appeared. She talked with another homeless person first, then spotted Harold. William, you're still here. How are you doing? They talked, and Harold learned more about her. When he asked why she did this, Sophie told him about her father's death and how people had helped her family. Those people didn't have to help us. They did it because they cared. And I made a promise to myself that when I was able, I'd do the same for others. Harold felt genuinely moved. Your father will be proud of you. She asked how he ended up on the streets, and Harold told his prepared story about losing his job and family to drinking. Have you tried any job assistance programs? When Harold mentioned property management experience, Sophie immediately pulled out her phone and spent 10 minutes making calls. Nothing right now, she said disappointed. But where can they reach you? I don't have a phone. Sophie frowned. Wait here. She went into a phone shop and emerged 15 minutes later with a basic mobile phone. I put 3 months of credit on it. Now people can call you. Harold was genuinely shocked. She'd spent at least 120 pounds on a homeless man she barely knew. "Thank you," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "You have no idea what this means." Harold watched her walk away. Truly humbled, he pulled out his real phone. "Johnson, move forward with a plan. Make it happen fast." 3 days later, Sophie was called into her supervisor's office. Rachel Williams looked serious. "Sophie, I need to talk to you about something. I got a call from a recruiter yesterday. They're looking for someone to fill a household manager position. The pay is substantial, 3 times what you make here." Sophie blinked in surprise. "Household manager? I'm a social worker. The recruiter specifically asked for someone with your skills. They want someone organized, compassionate, and responsible." Rachel leaned forward. "I don't want to lose you, but this job could change your life." "Who is the family?" "I don't know. The recruiter kept that confidential, but they're very wealthy. They're offering an excellent salary, health insurance, and accommodation." Sophie's mind raced. This could solve all her financial problems. "I think you should at least go to the interview." "Okay, when is it?" "Tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. It's in Kensington." That evening, Sophie called her mother. "Mom, something strange happened today." Her mother listened, then said carefully, "This sounds too good to be true. You need to be careful. But what if it's real?" "Then you go to the interview. But trust your instincts. If something feels wrong, you walk away." The next morning, Sophie took the tube to Kensington. The address led her to an elegant office building. A woman named Janet Foster spent an hour interviewing her. "Miss Bennett, I'm going to be direct with you. My client is a very successful businessman. He's extremely private. He needs someone discreet, trustworthy, and capable. Can you tell me who the client is?" "Not yet. What I can tell you is that the salary is £65,000 per year, with full benefits. You'll have your own suite on the property, meals provided, and 2 days off per week." Sophie's head spun. £65,000 a year? My client values good people and compensates them well. So, Miss Bennett, are you interested? Every logical part of Sophie's brain was screaming this was too good to be true. But she thought about her mother, her tiny flat, the homeless people she tried to help. "Yes, I'm interested." "Excellent. You'll start Monday morning. Be there at 8 a.m. sharp." Monday morning, Sophie stood outside the massive gates of a mansion in Kensington. This couldn't possibly be someone's home. It looked like something out of a film. Mrs. Patterson, the head housekeeper, showed her around. Sophie's quarters were nicer than any flat she'd ever lived in. A bedroom with a king-size bed, a sitting area, and a private bathroom with a deep soaking tub. "This is all for me?" Sophie asked in disbelief. "Yes, dear. Mr. Ashford believes his staff should be comfortable." For the next several hours, Mrs. Patterson showed her the massive house, introduced her to staff, explained the routines. "When will I meet Mr. Ashford?" "His son will be here this evening. Mr. Oliver Ashford. You'll actually be working primarily for him." "A son?" Sophie felt nervous. "What's he like?" Mrs. Patterson chose her words carefully. "Mr. Oliver is a good man, but he works very hard. Your main job will be keeping his life organized." That evening, Sophie heard a car pull up. She looked out and saw a sleek black Mercedes. A tall, broad-shouldered man got out, wearing an expensive suit. Even from a distance, she could see he moved with confidence. Minutes later, Mrs. Patterson knocked. "Mr. Oliver would like to meet you." Sophie followed her to a study lined with bookshelves. Oliver stood by the window. When he turned around, Sophie's breath caught. He was handsome in a sharp, intense way, but there was something cold in his expression. "Mr. Ashford, this is Sophie Bennett, your new household manager." "Miss Bennett," Sophie said, extending her hand. He shook it briefly. "I understand you came highly recommended. I'll do my best to meet your expectations, sir." "I'm rarely home," Oliver said, getting straight to business. "I usually leave by 6 a.m. and return after 8 p.m. Your job is to ensure the household runs smoothly. Can you handle that?" "Yes, sir." "Good. Mrs. Patterson has all the details. I prefer to keep interactions minimal. It was a clear dismissal. Sophie left, feeling stung by his coldness. "Don't take it personally," Mrs. Patterson said. "He's like that with everyone. He's been hurt before. But underneath, he's a good man." The first week was challenging. Oliver kept his word about being rarely home. Sophie threw herself into her work, reorganizing the household, coordinating with staff, adding small touches that made the house feel more like a home. "You have good instincts," Mrs. Patterson said. The house already feels different. On her second Tuesday, Sophie asked for a few hours off. She took the bus to Oxford Street, her canvas bag filled with supplies. She found William in his usual spot, and his face lit up. They talked, and Sophie found herself confiding about her cold employer. "He's so closed off. He barely acknowledges I exist." William looked thoughtful. "Maybe he's just lonely. Sometimes people build walls to protect themselves." Sophie didn't know that the homeless man she was confiding in was actually her employer's father, listening carefully to every word. The breakthrough came during Sophie's third week. It was a Saturday morning when Sophie heard a loud crash from upstairs followed by frustrated cursing. "That came from Mr. Oliver's study," Mrs. Patterson said. "You go. It's your job." Sophie climbed the stairs nervously and knocked. "Mr. Ashford, is everything okay?" "Go away," came the sharp reply. But Sophie had spent years working with difficult people. She opened the door. Oliver was on his hands and knees, picking up papers scattered everywhere. A file box had fallen from a shelf. "I said go away," Oliver snapped. "I can see you need help," Sophie said calmly, kneeling down to start gathering papers. "These are organized by date, right? I'll sort them as I go." Oliver looked at her, anger and frustration on his face. But after a moment, some tension left his shoulders. "Fine, just be careful with them." They worked in silence. Sophie sorted them carefully. "You're good at this," Oliver said grudgingly. "I used to manage files for hundreds of clients at my old job." "You're an odd person, Miss Bennett." "Sophie," she corrected. "And yes, I've been told that before." For the first time since she'd met him, Oliver almost smiled. As she was leaving, Oliver called out, "Sophie." She turned. "Yes, sir?" "You can call me Oliver when we're not in formal situations." It was a small thing, but it felt like a victory. After that day, things slowly started to shift. Oliver began coming home earlier. He'd eat dinner in the dining room instead of his study. He'd stop to chat with Sophie in the hallways. One evening, about a month after Sophie started, Oliver came home to find her making sandwiches and packing them into bags. "What are you doing?" he asked. Sophie looked up, startled. "Oh, it's Tuesday. I usually visit some people downtown, people who are homeless. I bring them food and water." "You do that on your own time?" "Yes, I've been doing it for years." She smiled. "I actually met someone really special doing this. An older man named William. He's become a friend." "You give food to homeless people and call them friends," Oliver said slowly. "Why?" "Why not? They're just people who've had bad luck. Everyone deserves kindness." Oliver was quiet for a long moment. That's actually really nice. Can I help? I could drive you. You usually take the bus, right?" Sophie looked at him in surprise. "What? Can I help?" "I want to." "Okay, that would actually be really helpful." 20 minutes later, they were in Oliver's Mercedes, driving towards central London. Oliver was quiet, clearly uncomfortable. Sophie gave him directions, and soon they were parking near Oxford Street. "I usually walk this whole area," Sophie explained. They got out, and Oliver followed as she stopped to talk to different people, handing out food and water, treating each person with dignity and respect. Oliver watched, something shifting inside him. He'd spent his whole life ignoring homeless people. But watching Sophie, seeing how grateful they were, how much a simple sandwich and a kind word meant to them, something inside him started to thaw. Finally, they came to a particular spot, and Sophie's face lit up. "William, I brought someone with me today." Oliver looked at the old homeless man, and something about him seemed familiar. "William, this is Oliver. He's my employer." "Oliver, this is William, the friend I was telling you about." Nice to meet you, young man, William said, extending his hand. Oliver shook it, surprised by the firm grip. They talked for a few minutes, William asking Oliver about his work and his life with genuine interest. Oliver found himself answering honestly, more honestly than he'd talked to anyone in years. You're lucky to have Sophie working for you, William said finally. She's a special person. I'm starting to realize that, Oliver admitted, glancing at Sophie. On the drive back, Oliver was quiet, processing everything. Thank you for coming with me, Sophie said. I know it was probably out of your comfort zone. It was, Oliver admitted, but I'm glad I did. Your friend William, he seemed like a wise man. He is. Sophie, can I ask you something? Of course. Why do you do this? Why spend what you have on strangers? Sophie thought for a moment. Because when I needed help, people helped me. And because everyone deserves to be seen, to be treated like they matter. Her words hit Oliver hard. Thank you for showing me this. Thank you for helping. After that evening, things changed faster. Oliver started coming home earlier. He'd seek out Sophie's company. They'd talk over dinner. Conversations that started professional, but gradually became more personal. Oliver found himself looking forward to coming home. He started noticing little things about Sophie. The way she hummed while she worked. The way she always had a kind word for everyone. The way her face lit up when she talked about something she cared about. And slowly, terrifyingly, Oliver realized he was developing feelings for her. The realization hit him fully one evening when he came home late from a difficult meeting. He'd lost a major deal, and he was furious and frustrated. But Sophie was in the kitchen, and she took one look at his face. Rough day. You could say that. Want to talk about it? No. Yes. I don't know. He slumped into a chair. I lost a deal I'd been working on for 6 months. All that work, all that time wasted. That sounds really frustrating. It's more than frustrating. It's humiliating. Everyone at the office will be talking about it. Is that what bothers you most? What other people will think? Oliver stopped, caught off guard. I don't know. Maybe. Oliver, Sophie said softly, you are more than your business deals. Your worth isn't measured by your win-loss record. Easy for you to say. Everything is competition in my world. That sounds exhausting, Sophie said, and lonely. The simple observation cut right through Oliver's defenses. Yeah, it is. Sophie reached across the table and took his hand. It was a simple gesture, but it made something inside Oliver break open. Thank you, he said, his voice rough with emotion. For what? For seeing me, the real me. Sophie smiled. I like the real you. You should let him out more often. That night, Oliver admitted the truth to himself. He was in love with her. Completely, terrifyingly in love. The next day, Oliver showed up unannounced at his father's office. Dad, I need to talk to you about something. Of course. What is it? It's about Sophie, my household manager. Harold's expression stayed carefully neutral. What about her? I think I'm in love with her. Harold allowed himself a small smile. And is that a problem? Yes. No. I don't know. Dad, she works for me. It's completely inappropriate. And even if it wasn't, why would she be interested in me? And she's so good, so kind. I'm just a workaholic businessman. Stop, Harold said firmly. Oliver, you're a good man. You've forgotten that about yourself. And from what you've told me, Sophie seems like she sees that. How do you know what I've told you? You talk about her more than you realize, Harold said with a knowing smile. Every time we speak lately, Sophie's name comes up. You're already in love with her. The only question is, what are you going to do about it? I don't know if I can do this, Dad. What if she breaks my heart like Mum did? Harold put a hand on his son's shoulder. Oliver, your mother leaving wasn't your fault. Emma is not your mother, and you are not me. You have a chance here for something real. Don't throw it away because you're afraid. What if she doesn't feel the same way? Then you'll hurt for a while, and then you'll heal. But at least you'll know. Living with regret is worse than living with heartbreak. Oliver nodded slowly. Okay, I'll talk to her. That evening, Oliver came home with flowers, a massive bouquet of roses and lilies. "Those are beautiful," Sophie said. "Are they from Mrs. Patterson?" "They're for you," Oliver said. Sophie's eyes widened. "For me? Why?" "Because I wanted to give you flowers." "Sophie, can we talk?" They sat down, and Oliver's heart was pounding. "Sophie, I need to tell you something. When you first started working here, I was determined to keep you at a distance. But you didn't let me stay closed off. You were kind and patient. And somewhere along the way, I started falling for you." Sophie's breath caught. "I know this is complicated. I know you work for me. But I can't anymore, Sophie. I'm in love with you." Emma sat very still, tears forming in her eyes. "I can't believe you're saying this." Oliver's heart sank. "I'm sorry." "No," Sophie interrupted, laughing through her tears. "I mean, I can't believe you're saying this because I feel the same way. I've been in love with you for weeks, Oliver." Relief flooded through Oliver. "Really? Really?" Oliver reached out and cupped her face gently. "Sophie Bennett, can I kiss you?" "Yes," she whispered. Their first kiss was soft and sweet. When they finally pulled apart, both were smiling. "So what does this mean?" Sophie asked. "You're fired," Oliver said immediately. "I can't keep you as my employee. I'll give you an incredible severance package and hire someone else." "But Sophie, I don't want you here as my employee. I want you here as my partner, my girlfriend. Eventually, if you'll have me, my wife." Sophie's eyes widened. "Wife? Oliver, we just had our first kiss." "I know. I'm getting ahead of myself. But Sophie, I've spent my whole adult life refusing to believe in love. And you changed all that. I know what I want now. I want you." Sophie kissed him again. "Then you've got me." The next day, Oliver called his father. "Dad, can you come over? There's someone I want you to meet officially." That evening, Harold arrived. When Sophie opened the door, her eyes widened in shock. "William," she whispered. Harold smiled gently. "Hello, Sophie. Or should I say, hello again." Oliver appeared behind Sophie, looking confused. "You two know each other?" "William is a homeless man I told you about," Sophie said, still staring at Harold in shock. Understanding dawned on Oliver's face. "Dad, what did you do?" They sat in the living room. Harold took his time. "Oliver, you know I've been worried about you for years. You refuse to believe in love. I knew if I tried to set you up with someone, you'd reject them on principle." He turned to Sophie. "So I decided to find someone who was genuinely kind. I disguised myself as a homeless man and sat on Oxford Street for weeks. And then I found you, Sophie. So you manipulated us," Oliver said, his jaw tight. "You orchestrated all of this." "I created an opportunity," Harold said carefully. "But everything that happened between you two, the feelings, the connection, that was real. I didn't make you fall in love. I just put her in your path." "The job offer came from you, didn't it?" Sophie asked quietly. "You arranged it." Harold nodded. "I did. I knew you were struggling financially, and I knew Oliver needed someone to manage his household." "Dad, this is insane," Oliver said angrily. "You lied to both of us." "And are you unhappy with the result?" Harold asked calmly. Oliver looked at Sophie, who was sitting quietly. "Emma," Oliver said softly, "I'm so sorry. I had no idea." Sophie was quiet for a long moment. Then she looked at Harold. "You tested me. All those times we talked, you were evaluating whether I was good enough for your son." "Not good enough," Harold corrected gently. "Right for him." "You lied to me," Sophie said, and there was hurt in her voice. "I thought we were friends, William. I told you things, personal things." Harold's expression softened with genuine regret. "You're right, and I'm sorry. The friendship was real, Sophie. Everything I told you, the conversations we had, those were real." Sophie stood and walked to the window, her back to both of them. "Sophie," Harold said quietly, "I know I've hurt you, and I'm sorry. But please understand. I was desperate. My son was throwing his life away. You should have told me," Sophie said, her voice thick. "You should have trusted me with the truth." "You're right, and for that, I apologize." Sophie turned around, tears on her face. Did you ever actually need that water I gave you? I needed it, Harold said truthfully. Maybe not for reasons you thought, but I needed to see that there were still people like you in the world. Sophie looked at Oliver. Did you know about any of this? No, Oliver said firmly. I swear to you, Sophie, I had no idea. Sophie was quiet, then sighed. This is a lot to process. I understand, Harold said, and if you're angry with me, you have every right to be. Sophie looked between Harold and Oliver. You know what the worst part is? It actually worked. Everything you hoped would happen happened. Oliver and I fell in love. Real love. She walked over to Oliver and took his hands. I love you. That's real. That has nothing to do with how we met. My feelings for you are my own. Relief flooded Oliver's face. So you're not leaving? I'm not leaving, Sophie confirmed. But she turned to Harold. No more lies. No more manipulation. If we're going to be a family, and I guess we are, then we do it honestly from now on. Harold nodded, smiling. No more lies. I promise. Good. Sophie took a deep breath. Now, since apparently we're doing family dinner, someone should probably tell Mrs. Patterson we need to set another place. The tension broke, and Oliver pulled Sophie into his arms. Over her shoulder, he looked at his father. He was still angry about the deception, but he was also grateful. Thank you, Dad, he said quietly. Harold smiled. You're welcome, son. 6 months later, Sophie stood in front of a full-length mirror in a wedding dress. It was simple and elegant, nothing too extravagant. Her mother, Linda, stood beside her, tears streaming down her face. Love, you look like a princess. Thanks, Mum. Mrs. Patterson knocked. It's time, dear. The wedding was held in the garden of Harold's estate. It was small and intimate, just close friends and family. As Sophie walked down the aisle on her sister's arm, she saw Oliver waiting at the altar. He looked handsome in his tuxedo, but more importantly, he looked happy. Really, genuinely happy. When she reached him, he whispered, You look incredible. So do you. They'd written their own vows. When it was Oliver's turn, his voice was thick with emotion. Sophie, 6 months ago, I thought I knew who I was. I was a businessman, successful and alone, and I convinced myself that was enough. Then you walked into my life and showed me I was wrong. You taught me that success means nothing without someone to share it with. You taught me that kindness isn't weakness, it's strength. You taught me how to be human again. He squeezed her hands. I promise to spend the rest of my life being worthy of your love. I promise to see the good in people the way you do. And I promise that I'll never let my work come before our life together. Sophie was crying openly. When it was her turn, she took a shaky breath. Oliver, when I first met you, I thought you were the coldest person I'd ever encountered. I couldn't have been more wrong. Underneath all those walls, I found the warmest, kindest heart. You just needed someone to help you remember it was there. She smiled through her tears. I promise to always be that someone. I promise to remind you that you're more than your work. And I promise to love you, not for your money or your name, but for exactly who you are. When the officiant pronounced them husband and wife, Oliver kissed Sophie like she was the most precious thing in the world. At the reception, Harold gave a toast. He stood up, glass in hand, and looked at the happy couple. When my son was 10 years old, he asked me if love was real. His mother had just left, and he was trying to understand why. I told him that love was real, but complicated. That was a coward's answer. He paused, emotion thick in his voice. The truth is, love is the simplest, most powerful force in the world. It doesn't need perfect circumstances or perfect people. It just needs two people willing to choose each other every day. He raised his glass. Sophie, thank you for choosing my son. Thank you for seeing past his walls and finding the good man inside. And Oliver, thank you for finally letting someone in. You two give me hope that love isn't just real, it's worth fighting for. Everyone raised their glasses, and Oliver stood to embrace his father. Thanks for not giving up on me, Dad. Never, Harold said. I'll never give up on you. 6 months after the wedding, Sophie and Oliver sat on the couch, going through mail. Sophie opened an envelope and gasped. What is it? Oliver asked. Oliver, there's something I need to tell you. Something in her tone made him sit up. What is it? Is everything okay? Sophie smiled, a huge, beautiful smile. Everything is perfect, Oliver. I'm pregnant. For a moment, Oliver couldn't speak. Then he pulled her into his arms, holding her tight, tears streaming down his face. We're having a baby. We're having a baby, Sophie confirmed. Later that night, as they lay in bed, Sophie's head on Oliver's chest, she thought about everything that had happened. From struggling to survive to meeting a homeless man who wasn't really homeless to falling in love with a man who'd forgotten how to feel. Life is strange, she said softly. Strange good or strange bad? Oliver asked. Strange perfect, Sophie replied. Oliver kissed the top of her head. Yeah, it really is. And in that moment, in the quiet darkness of their bedroom, surrounded by love and hope and the promise of new life, both of them knew they'd found something rare and precious. They'd found their home, not in a mansion or a bank account, but in each other, and it had all started with a simple act of kindness, a bottle of water given to a stranger on a hot summer day. Sometimes, Sophie thought as she drifted off to sleep, the smallest gestures lead to the greatest blessings.